Velvet booth honeyed lies. The bar didn't sleep. It learned the shape of my heartbeat. After last call, when the dishwashers sang their dull hymn and the ice machine chattered like teeth in a winter river, the blue lark changed languages. Daytime was distributors and spreadsheets and planting compliments in the host's ear. Night was dim lamps floating like coins at the bottom of a dark pool, and the velvet of booth 7, which could hold a secret the way a palm holds breath. I'm Ethan, owner, manager, bartender when my hands need remembering. I open the Lark in a side street that smells of rain even when it doesn't fall, where the taxis decide whether you deserve them. The piano is a faithful liar. It will tell you a melody is new when I wrote it years ago in another life, the one where I believed vows were steel and not ribbon. Lena, my wife, then, could speak any room into behaving. She did PR for brands that wanted to smell expensive and feel inevitable, and when she curled a finger around a champagne flute, you got the idea the bubbles obeyed. We met in a kitchen fire of a pop-up supper club, both of us laughing as if oxygen were optional. I loved the speed of her. She loved the way I could pour a measure like I was measuring out patience. We'd always had Wednesdays. She, finish with a client, drop by the Lark's private door, purple paint, brass push bar. The paint chipped into constellations only we knew, and slip into my office, breath still holding the crispness of outside. There's a coat hook in there that looks like the antlers of a small animal. I've bruised my shoulder on it more times than I'll admit. She'd press me back against the filing cabinet and murmur, "We have 10, and we'd use 9 and fold the last one under our tongues for later." If that sounds like bragging, it isn't. I am simply building the room. Booth 7 sits near the piano, sight line perfect to the exit and to the mirror behind the bar. The velvet there drinks the light and refuses to burp. If you were going to meet someone and pretend you weren't, you'd choose 7 without thinking. The first time I noticed, it wasn't fireworks. It was a receipt without a card attached, an anonymous split of Risée champagne, and a lipstick ring the shade of late fruit. The server wrote "House" on the chit and drew a smiley face, and I stared into the neat curve of that mouth as if it could whistle. The cameras at the Lark aren't there to catch anyone. They're there to remind the night it has a witness. But there's a blind spot at the curve of the stairwell if you lean as if you're tying your shoe. I learned that from watching our busboys evade responsibility for smuggling out their own desserts. At 11:36 p.m., 2 Wednesdays after the lipstick ring, the stairwell blinked. At 11:39, a door sensor log said kitchen exit, held 6s. At 11:41, booth 7 requested a second glass for a friend on her way. My bartender on duty sent me a shrug emoji. It shouldn't have been a big deal. The Lark belongs to its patrons. But I've seen secrets walk in like stray cats and set up house in our corners. I told myself a story where Lena had been early and a client late, and she didn't want to bother me while I was upstairs with the books. In that story, the lipstick ring would be hers and the second glass would be for someone who never arrived. I added the word harmless to the end of the sentence and tried it as a garnish. It tasted of tin. The next morning, I found an earbud tip under the banquette in 7, a clear silicone cap like a thumbnail. People lose those all the time, you'll say. But Lena hated in-ears. She said the world needed a little air in it. She preferred those big retro headphones that made her look like an astronaut on shore leave. I should have thrown the thing out. I put it in my pocket like a pebble. Myra started singing for us in winter. Her voice carried bourbon in it, the hush before a confession and the kind of scrape you can only earn by being misused by a few good songs. She played piano like she was trying to keep something gentle from bolting. The first time she hit the second verse of Lilac Wine, 3 couples let go of each other's hands at the same time, as if on cue. She wore suits, loose, dark silk, like she had a treaty with comfort. I hired her for Thursday nights, then added Sundays, and then any time the room needed to be reminded what Pulse felt like. I kept our orbit professional. She kept hers impeccably polite. When she asked for a tea, she'd say, "Just hot water and a slice of lemon, please," as if she'd already done the work of making it herself. Sometimes she'd lean an elbow on the piano lid and look out at the room like it was a weather system she could read. "You're owning the melancholy tonight," I told her once. "I'm renting it by the hour," she said, and smiled like she was turning down a light inside herself by a notch. Lena knew about Myra in the way wives know about everything that touches their husband's day. "She's excellent brand texture," Lena said, smiling in a way that meant she acknowledged the dangerous edge of the compliment and was not going to help me avoid it. "Don't let the piano eat her." 2 weeks later, Lena brought up the word open while we were folding laundry. We were both sober and in daylight. That's important to say, because the drunkenness of such conversations is usually the point. She tucked a towel with the precision of a surgeon. "If we were to explore a less traditional structure," she said, "with rules, with care, with us first always." She didn't touch me as she said it. She stood as if on a moving train, balancing by looking at a distant tree. I wanted to be the kind of man who meets the person he loves at the place they are. I wanted to not be small. We wrote rules. No one from the Lark. No friends. No lies. Tell before, not after. Protection and discretion, and our bed as a border. The first Wednesday after, she kissed me like it was a treaty. I tasted relief. The second Wednesday, I tasted hurry. By the third, the kitchen exit was held sevens. Booth 7 ordered 2 glasses, and I began to recognize a pattern that didn't include me. I didn't hire a pie. The Blue Lark taught me to collect proof in ways that don't taste like betrayal in the mouth later. I dusted the underside of Booth 7's table with a whisper of talc that only shone if you knew where to look. I touched the inside of the kitchen exit handle with a kiss of UV marker, invisible by light, bright under the blacklight bulb I keep for checking IDs. I adjusted the QR code on our cocktail menu to run through a short link I could log. Call it inventory, call it curiosity, call it a way to warn myself which of my lies were new. And because the night is vain and believes it can outrun string, I stretched a length of monofilament across the narrow back hallway to the office, low enough to snag someone's shin, soft enough to pretend it didn't mean it. At 11:41, Booth 7's QR lit up from a number Lena had used only for work. At 11:44, the UV streak on the exit handle had a finger drawn through it like a comet's tail. At 11:47, I found the monofilament unhooked, curled into a polite question mark on the floor, as if the night had written me a riddle and moved on. In the office, someone had left a glass, its lipstick ring not exactly the late fruit from before but its cousin who studied abroad. On my chair was the silicone earbud tip, its twin to the one I had in my pocket. I stood in that small room and listened, because the building talks if you are quiet. I heard Myra's left hand building a ladder out of octaves. I heard ice collapse in a well as if it were changing minds. From somewhere very close, I heard a breath not mine, and then Lena's voice, soft but not whispering, shaping a syllable I knew she only made when she forgot to be careful. Damien had been circling the Lark for months, the kind of investor who orders small and offers large, a man whose socks made more statements than his mouth. He had that saxophonist's posture, the permanent reach for air, which made you want to forgive him for already forgiving himself. He offered us a second location, a rooftop series, a branded line of bidders. I had kissed him on both cheeks and said, "Let me think." He had kissed the air and said, "Let me know." When Lena emerged from my office, her hair had the kind of dense bobby pins make when they reconsider. Her face was calm in the polite way of architects explaining the limits of a lot. She saw me, took a breath for stage use, and then the UV stripe across her wrist, my invisible kiss from the exit handle, glowed under the blacklight we use for the door on weekends, a faint galaxy blooming just where Pulse thinks it can hide. "Ethan," she said, a warning or a greeting or my name drooping under its own weight. I didn't make a speech. The great mercy of the lark is that it teaches you where sound belongs. I guided Lena back into the office and closed the door with the quiet click that means you are letting a scene end. Damien took another exit as if doors were a language he only understood in emergencies. We talked in plain words. She said the rules had felt like a joke told too late. I said I had tried to be large and had become transparent instead. She said she loved me in the tidy way that means someone will always think love is a matter of shelf space. I said I loved her in the messy way that means I forgive what I can't forget. "We can manage this," she said. "We always manage." "I don't want to manage you," I said. "I want to be married to you." We separated with the competence of people who can read a room. She found an apartment with a view of something that took up the window, a river, a bridge, a thought. I boxed the mug with the crack we both used to trace with our thumbs and left it on her doorman's desk with a note that said, "I'll miss this too." I changed the code on the purple door and then sat on the stairs on the far side and let the wood have my back for a while. Myra found me there. The bar light made a narrow canyon of the hallway. "Do you need me to play another set?" she asked, and it was so purely about work that I wanted to put my head in my hands. "Play what you want," I said. "Play the song you only rent by the hour." She smiled barely and touched my shoulder in the place where the antler-shaped hook had bruised me too many times. Her hand was cool, not pitying. On stage, she didn't sing Lilac Wine. She sang something I didn't know, and I owned the place, so that's saying something. The melody was a slow ask. The room obeyed. A month later, the Lark hosted a benefit for a shelter a few blocks away, the kind of night where people take their generosity out for a drink. I wore a suit that had once been told it was a good idea and had listened. Lena came, because the world has a sense of humor. She looked, "See, this is where men say cruel, pretty things." She looked like she had decided to win winter and had found a way. "Your room holds a crowd well," she said, as if she were still my consultant and I were still her favorite difficult client. "It listens," I said. "It knows where to put the noise." Damien stood at her shoulder and did an admirable impression of a coat rack. He did not meet my eyes. I was grateful for his cowardice. It meant I didn't have to perform. We didn't have a scene. There were no recordings played, no speeches about betrayal delivered into a microphone as the audience went quiet in the attention-hungry way that makes a life into content. At some point, Myra's song lifted the room like a tide, and I felt my chest loosen the way a fist lets go of a coin. I went to the office for fresh change and found on my desk the two silicone earbud tips side by side, like quotation marks. I laughed, because the night is simple if you let it be. I won't pretend virtue. I'm a man with hands and a back office and the kind of privacy that has furniture in it. But I'm also a man who loves his place more than he hates his past. The first time Myra kissed me, it was in the doorway between the hallway and the stage, the in-between place that doesn't belong to anyone. Her mouth tasted like lemon and something unafraid. Her fingers slid into my hair like she was trying to find the rhythm of my thinking and keep it company. I put my palm against her side where silk becomes heat and felt her inhale with the authority of someone who intends to matter. We stepped back when a server passed with a tray and smiled at how the night insists on practicalities. We found a way to be gentle with the lark while being uncareful with each other in rooms that could afford it. In my office, she'd sit on my lap facing me, one knee braced against the desk, and we'd talk about everything but us until the talking became the thing it becomes. Her lower lip has a place it rests when she is about to choose. I learned to recognize it and to ask with my eyes before my hands did anything irreversible. We made rules that weren't about fences but about floorboards. No kisses anywhere a camera could imagine. No hurriedness that tasted like theft. Yes to the piano lit at 2 in the morning when the cleaning crew had gone and the room smelled like a good mistake. Lena and I signed papers in a courthouse lobby that smells like rain and dust. We didn't exchange final speeches. She's with Damien now, I think. He posted a rooftop view the other day, and I recognized the river's shoulder. I hope they don't confuse novelty with mercy. I hope she remembers to keep air between the world and her ears. Myra moved into the apartment above the bar, not into mine, into her own, because we are not kids and romance isn't a sleepover. At night, when she plays, I watch from behind the tap handles as men learn their lesson and women make their judgments and couples remind each other why they are still a team. Sometimes she looks up from the piano and finds me, and the room narrows to a single, useful promise. If we are careful with our sanctuary, it will keep forgiving us. At closing, I run my hand along the velvet of booth 7. It doesn't hold a grudge. Fabric absorbs and lets go. That's its whole contract. The UV lamp stays in the drawer now, on top of a coil of monofilament and a small bag of talc. Evidence has its place. So does mercy. When the last glass is racked and the receipts align like small soldiers, I turn the lights down until the room is more idea than place. Myra slips behind the bar, plucks a cherry by its stem, places it in her mouth, and then in mine. We count 10 minutes and use 9. The last one we fold up like we used to and keep for later, not because we're short on time, but because we've learned to leave the night a tip. There's a way a room breathes when it's done its job, like a chest unstrapping. The blue lark has forgiven worse than me. It forgave a man who thought dignity required a public hanging it didn't. It forgave a woman who believed love had a taste that would go flat if she didn't keep opening new bottles. It forgave me for needing proof and for letting it sleep in drawers. If you came in on a Thursday, you'd hear the piano brag and the ice confess. You'd see me move through my own establishment like a person who learned the difference between ownership and stewardship the hard way. You might notice how booth 7 always has perfect napkins, and how the mirror behind the bar doesn't judge, only repetition does. You might think the room is glamorous, and you'd be right. Or you might feel the quiet under the music, the simple fact that some places deserve our best selves. When I lock the purple door from the outside, I run my thumb over the nicks in the paint, mapping constellations. Orion, a ladle, 2 quotation marks, side by side, ready to hold whatever we say next.